Hi everyone, I just wanted to speak to you a little bit this evening about PSHE and the new curriculum and how we use it really. The aims for the meeting, by the end of the meeting you will know the big picture with relation to PSHE, so the national agenda, where to access statutory documents should you wish to read them, what PSHE is going to look like at Base Academy across both schools, where to access the planning documents, how to access online resources, and how PSHE fits in with safeguarding in terms of sex ed, radicalisation, FGM, just to name a few. Okay, so why is PSHE so important? I think I'm probably preaching to the converted when I talk about this. We know, particularly at Red Lane, and I'm sure at Masefield as well, that PSHE underpins absolutely everything that we do at Red Lane, and that if our children don't access PSHE, then they possibly won't get some of these skills that they need to function as they grow. So I've just popped a quote here from the PSHE Association, and I will keep going back to the PSHE Association throughout the staff meeting, and really I don't make any apologies for that really, because in terms of a source of information for PSHE, you can't go wrong with having a look on there, but I will talk more about the PSHE Association as we look at resources later on. So they say a growing body of research shows that pupils who are emotionally healthy do better at school. PSHE education helps children and young people to achieve their potential by supporting their well-being and tackling issues that can affect their ability to learn, such as anxiety and unhealthy relationships. So particularly at the moment with the way COVID is in the world, obviously is vitally important, but also we know in terms of unhealthy relationships how often we deal with issues at home, and how we need to educate children on how they can deal with these feelings positively. Okay. Now, the PSHE Association has been one of the organisations that have lobbied the government for years to make sure, or to recognise even, that PSHE becomes statutory on the English curriculum, because for an awful long time it wasn't. But I know at both our schools this was something that we never sort of lost sight of. We always continued to offer a good quality PSHE curriculum to our pupils, but it moves so incredibly quickly, PSHE, and I know even just in terms of your digital well-being, things that we were teaching maybe even 2 years ago, it moves so fast. So one of the things we do have to keep one eye on is making sure that the curriculum that we offer is fit for purpose and is relevant to today's society. Now, one of the key things that we always talk about in terms of our purpose and why we're in school is thinking about what is it that we want to offer. And one of the things that PSHE really does, it helps children to develop the skills like teamwork, communication and resilience. We know that these are not skills that children just obtain through like osmosis in a way, that they need explicitly teaching, and then they need to be revisited and practiced and then reinforced at times like play times, lunch times, those unstructured situations where you know children are going to struggle because they haven't got this grounding in PSHE. One of the fundamental things we always talk about, and we revisit it every year in September, is our mission statement. And we always talk about preparing our children to be positive citizens. And one of those things is about looking at skills that are going to be valued by employers, okay, and actually teaching those skills to the children, which is where our core values really evolved from. So this little infographic here is from the Indeed website, talking about what it is that employers want from their prospective employees, but how do children become like that? How do they become honest? How do they become persistent and resilient? We always talk about children lacking resilience, but do we teach them how to become resilient, or is it just something we expect them to do when they find something hard in maths? These skills have to be taught explicitly. And that's something we've always known. We know that the children need these things teaching, and it's something that I've always taught at Red Lane from all the time that I've been here. PSHE has always been something that's underpinned the curriculum and really almost placed alongside your maths and English to make sure that children make the progress that they can do. And in recognition of that, the government have now released some PSHE documents finally to support staff in the teaching of this. Now, these documents, one's guidance, and you may have seen this before, is called Character Education. And if there's a copy of this actually saved on both school systems in the resource folder under curriculum. I think it might be under planning as well. I think I put it in both places if you wanted to read it. There's nothing in there that's absolutely groundbreaking, anything that we don't particularly do. However, this is the document that's come out more recently, relationship educations and relationship and sex education and health education, which is the statutory document which you need to be aware of, again, saved in both of those folders. Now, this curriculum that I've just mentioned here, this relationship education, is actually split into two elements. It's got physical health and mental well-being, and relationships, which includes your sex education. It doesn't actually contain things like aspirations, about jobs for the future, which we recognise is really important for Red Lane and for Maysfield as well. So to that end, what we've done, the PSHE Association here have taken this new curriculum and have developed it into a programme of study. And what they've done is they've fitted it into 3 key areas: health and well-being, which are referred to as H objectives on the website, relationships, R objectives, and living in the wider world, which are L objectives. Okay, now still, even with it being developed by the PSHE Association, it's still an extremely weighty document, and our old curriculum was based on the old scheme by the PSHE Association, and one of the key things that people always said was that there was so much content for people to get through. So in developing this, we've developed it into a spiral curriculum which has 12 units which fit into those 3 areas, which means we'll be working in key stages. So years 1 and 2 will cover the 12 units, years 3 and 4 will cover 12 units, and years 5 and 6 will cover 12 units. Okay, and that pans out and it looks like this. So years 1, 3 and 5 will follow the same pattern, and years 2, 4 and 6 will follow the same pattern. Okay, and that's currently the plan that we've put in place, and we've tried to tie them into things that are going on in school life. So, for example, team and the VIPs units, which obviously talk about friendships, coincide with anti-bullying week, because that was always a problem, making sure we had enough curriculum time to do everything in a purposeful manner. Safety first falls when Safer Internet Day is going to fall. It's My Body falls when we're doing Healthy Living Weeks. We've tried to take these things into account to make the best use of time. So as I've just previously mentioned, staff feedback was that there was far too much content for PSHE to get through each half term. So each of these 12 units that I was just talking about have been split up, and I've put them into objectives and success criteria, and we've put them on the shared drives. What we've tried to do is split each one into 6 lessons. Now, that's not to say you can only do 6 lessons for it. It might be that you think that there's one particular element that you think, do you know what, my class really need more on this. I'm going to break this down into 3 or 4 lessons. That's absolutely fine. The 6 lessons are really a minimum expectation, and they've all been put on the shared drives for you to use, and they're going on a half term at a time to enable those to be built up. So in terms of how much time you spend on PSHE, we would suggest maybe an hour a week. And in doing that, like I've just said, we've already found links where possible, but always try and find links where you can to make the best use of your time. Obviously, it might be that other things crop up during that time. You might have an incident in class where you need to do some more work on the NSPCC underpants rule. Thinking of safeguarding, you might have an incident with where you need to do some cyber work with your class, and all those things are absolutely fine. Again, the reason why we've tried to get these sessions into just 6 one-hour sessions, because obviously some half terms will be longer than that, and you can have that flexibility to extend those as you wish. So how to develop these objectives into lessons and the resource location. Now, one of the pieces of feedback that I've had from staff already is that the PSHE website can be really hard to navigate. So I'm just going to show you how to navigate that, but I'm also going to show you where I've saved some of these things on the school system. So if I just come out of here and I can, okay. So if we go into the PSHE Association website, after you've logged in, when you've logged in up on this side over here, it will take you to a home page. Now, I know a lot of people have simply gone to this resource and curriculum and clicked on advanced resource search. Now, things do get thrown up there, but you get all sorts of things from key stages 1 to 4 and all sorts of research things. And in a way, you go a bit down a rabbit hole when you go into this website. You find all sorts of different things and you become distracted. So in terms of finding really good quality resources, if you go to the program builders here and you click, it will take you to this page. Okay. Sorry, it will take you to this page. And if you scroll down, the document that you'll find really useful is this primary program builder, the questions-based model. And that will take you to this document here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we're working in key stages. So we're not following this exactly, but what you'll see is the units that will link, okay? And then when you scroll down, you'll see all the really quality resources that link to the different units are on this side here. Now, just a bit of a health warning with these. Again, all really quality resources, and this growing up with Yasmin and Tam I'll talk about when we come to do RSE at a later date, but that's going to be something we're buying into. Now, that's worth noting because not all of these resources down here are free resources. Now, it'd be really useful if you could tell which ones were free and which ones were paid for, but you can't until you click into them, unfortunately. The ones that tend to be free are all the PSHE Association ones, and then things like the Experian ones and Red Cross are all free resources as well. The NSPCC ones are all free, but you find out pretty quickly when you click into them. Okay, let's just see if I can return back to my PowerPoint. So that document is also saved now in the PSHE and Wellbeing folder under Planning, and it's called PSHE Association Quality Resources, which means you don't have to go down that route of going through that website and trying to find it all. That website is really good, and there's some things on there that aren't through this document, which is why I would urge you to use them both alongside each other. But they are all now saved on our school system as well, should you want to access it through that route. So, for example, this is a Year 6 example. One of your learning objectives I think it's in your Keeping Safe unit, is your 4th lesson is, what is an emergency and what should I do? Okay, so in looking on the PSHE Association for Years 5 and 6, we can see here, these are the units. Okay, we can see one of the suggested units for Year 5 was how can we help in an accident or emergency? Okay. And it would take you, if you go through the PSHE Association, and it suggests this link here. And when you click on that link, it will take you to a whole load of different resources, which are quality assured by the PSHE Association, which would give you your teaching scheme or really good quality resources to use as a basis for a teaching scheme for that lesson or short series of lessons. Okay, and if anybody needs any help with those, just give me a shout and I'm quite happy to help you locate some of these things. Now, as lockdown progresses, I'm trying to sort of go through these units and try to signpost some of these for you already to put them on your plan, because some of the resources that we do use don't come from the PSHE Association, so I'm trying to signpost those on the plans already. So, for example, Real Love Rocks. There are some good resources in that. Some of them already have become a little bit dated as well, but we're trying to sort of signpost where to use these non-negotiable resources so we can make sure that our PSHE curriculum is as high quality as it possibly can be, using really good, well-researched resources. Okay. So just the final thing to be mentioning now, about how does PSHE fit in with safeguarding in terms of radicalisation, FGM and so forth. these extracts are taken from the audit that was completed earlier on in the year, and you can see the extract there. This is obviously from the title of it, and this is one of the KPIs. So, learning opportunities in the curriculum are used to teach children and young people about safeguarding and keeping themselves safe. For example, and then it moves on. So, I just wanted to sort of put this into some sort of context, really, in terms of PSHE. We've talked already about why we do PSHE in terms of character traits and our core values, but really just to take it back to the very, very basics, that actually, if you find the RSE document online on the government website, it's actually under the safeguarding umbrella, because actually teaching children about sexual behaviours and about keeping health actually is about safeguarding. Now, I know some of these subjects can actually be quite uncomfortable to teach at times, and we know that with some of our children it will hit a nerve perhaps, and really this is where your really positive relationships with your class come in, that actually children knowing that they can speak to you and having a real clear set of guidelines on what to do if they have questions in PSHE or indeed any other areas of the curriculum. The PSHE Association suggests having something called an Ask It basket, where actually any questions that come up through that, they can put them in there and they know that you will address them. I know when we had the Jenny Mosley training, she talked about having bubble time or a bubble board where they could put questions, and that's something I use in my classroom with Post-it notes, and I've had children put things on there and they're saying, I need to speak to you at break time. I know lots of different people have different things in places in their classrooms for that, but I just want to be really sort of clear on why PSHE is so important in terms of safeguarding. Now, I've just mentioned that actually some of these things can be really uncomfortable for us to teach as adults, and historically we have sometimes had other agencies coming in to teach them. I mean, we do still have the SPCC to come in and do the safeguarding assemblies. At the moment they aren't happening, which makes our delivery of these sessions even more important. The safeguarding in terms of what we're calling genitalia is delivered all the way down in year 2. Again, not always a comfortable situation. Talking about FGM, okay, one of the things brought up here is actually delivered through It's My Body unit in years 4 and 6. And I know Julia's already said she's quite happy to support staff with the delivery of that if needs be. And I'm quite happy to help in terms of the planning and even team teaching should COVID allow when it comes about. We would never expect you to teach something in isolation which you did not feel comfortable with doing. Now, these are all taught really sensitively. Many of the topics are presented through the ideas of choice, control and consent, where children are taught teaching really about self-awareness and what these words mean and what they were to do about if they were ever concerned about themselves or their friends. It's all done very sympathetically. And actually, the framework for that is always going to be provided for you. So you've got a very clear idea. So you're not worried thinking, should I be talking about that? Should I not be talking about that? It's all very clearly set up for you on those units of work. And like I said, I'm quite happy to talk to everybody about those if needs be. I've already done some drop-ins at Red Lane for years 4 and 6. I'm quite happy to come over to Masefield and deliver those as well, should the need arise. So just to take you all the way back to the start, because I'm conscious that I've just absolutely fired through all this, just to link back to what it was that we were going to do today. So the big picture in terms of PSHE, hopefully you now have an idea of the status that PSHE has on the curriculum now that it is now statutory. Where to access those statutory documents, they're on both the Red Lane and the Masefield sites in your PSHE folder on your shared drive. Hopefully you know what it's going to look like at Base Academy in terms of the planning is pretty much done for you in terms of the aims and the objectives. And it's all saved on the shared drive again. How to access the online resources, looking at the PSHE Association and trying your best to navigate that site. I know it's not perfect, but I have tried to download some of those things to support you with that. And how PSHE fits in with safeguarding and the status that holds in school is so important. If anybody does have any questions about this, I'm quite happy to field any of them. Now, this is the first video I'm going to do in a series. I'm going to do a follow-up one on RSE because I think that needs one on its own, given the change of emphasis this year. And I'm quite happy to sort of do any other issues as well, perhaps on the radicalisation or the FGM or anything, other issues that come to light. But I'm quite happy to take requests karaoke style. Okay, hopefully you found that useful. Please feedback if you need to. Thanks very much.